Hi, I'm Mauro Porcini, PepsiCo's Chief Design Officer. Join me for our new series where we dive into the minds of the greatest innovators of our time, with the goal of finding what drives them in their professional journey and in their personal life, trying to uncover the universal truths that unite anyone attempting to have a meaningful impact in the world. This is In Your Shoes. Growing up in a small town in Texas, fashion magazines were one of my windows to the world. But since I didn't see many people that looked like me represented in the pages, I started to paint what I wanted to see. I'm quoting our guest of today. She's a Nigerian American mixed media artist who paints figurative artwork as well as practices photography and videography, all inspired by fashion and pop culture. She lives and works in Austin, and she receives her bachelor degree from the University of Texas and her law degree from the Texas Southern University. Her desire to become an artist spawned from her love of fashion illustration, photography, and design. Her work has been featured in multiple magazines, including Forbes, Architectural Digest, Drawing Magazine. Her art has been shown in the Texas Biennial, the Notre Dame University, George Washington Carver Museum, the Mokada Museum in Brooklyn, amongst many others. And saving the best for last, the art is featured on Life Water bottle as part of the February 2021 campaign celebrating Black History Month. You can check it out on lifewater.com. Dawn Okoro, welcome to In Your Shoes. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today, Dawn.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for accepting the invite. So I was looking at your bio, and something came immediately. It was very, very visible. You have a degree in law, but you are an artist, and you dress like an artist, and your art production is fantastic.
Thanks.
So how did it happen? How a lawyer became an artist? Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I always knew that I wanted to be an artist, but growing up and even through high school, like I knew I was. Well, people would say that I'm good at art, and I enjoyed doing it. And I felt like I needed to do it, but I didn't know how to do it as a career. I didn't really have anyone. I didn't really have any examples of like I've been taught about Picasso and Monet and all that, but I didn't know like where do I fit within that as an artist. And my parents, they just wanted the best for me. They just wanted me to be able to make a good living as an adult. When I went to college, like I studied other things. Like an undergrad, like I really wanted to study art, but I felt pressure, and so I studied. I got a degree in psychology, but then my minor was fashion design because that's what I really liked, at that time. And then after graduating with my undergrad, I just was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I want to be an artist. I don't know how. I want to make my family happy too, and I want to survive. So I'll go to law school, and so that's how that happened. So yeah.
And then, you were at law school. How did you do the jump to the art world? What happened?
It's funny that you say that because here's what happened leading up to law school. So I just did a Hail Mary. I applied for law school. Applied for one school, and then I got in. I was like, okay, darn. And so I was just like, oh my god, what am I going to do? I have to go now. And so I contacted the school and said, hey, could you defer my enrollment for like a year? And I said, I'll give myself a year to become an artist, and then I won't have to go to law school. And so that whole year, then I tried to create an art career out of nothing. I didn't know what I was doing, and I did have like my own solo show, and it was fun. But of course, it still wasn't enough to make a living or anything like that. So I went to law school in Houston, Texas, and what's funny is that I feel like one good thing about going to law school is that it put me in a town where I found a community of artists, and it's like artists that I really looked up to, and they really embraced me as well, and showed me that maybe this is something I could really do. And even like when you're in law school, you do an internship in the summer at a law firm. So I got an internship, and then when they found out that I'm an artist, and hired me to do like the partners hired me to do portraits of their kids and stuff like that, and I was making extra money doing that. But all through law school, I just continued to do art and was continuing to show my art. And then by the time I graduated, I decided, okay, I'm just gonna pack everything up and I'm not gonna study law. I'm just gonna move to New York City, and so that's what I did, like right after law school.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's a mix of having a dream. You had that dream and that passion from the beginning. And then you had resilience because no matter what, with all the roadblocks and trying to please everybody, your family, but you went through with your dream. And at the end, you have been successful. Is a very inspiring story. There is a parallel also in the design world. Design and art are somehow cousins. And often I had a very similar story. My parents were like, "Well, you need to study something that give you the possibility to have a job." I
Hmm.
didn't come from a wealthy family. I needed to have a job, so even design was like, "Oh my god," is. And I loved art too, and they were like, "No way."
Hmm.
Design was already a bet, but they were like better than art, to get a job, but still, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's not gonna find a job. And I heard so many stories of artists and designers that found themselves in this situation, and instead this society needs the inspiration of art so much. What do you think we should do as a society, governments, schools, companies, brands, to support the world of art in a better way, to make sure that kids can understand, first of all, that you can live of art and that you
Hmm.
can do a job, in the world, and you should follow the passion. What should we do? What can we do? Is a billion-dollar question, I think. But
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like, and again, like at this point with public schools, like with them cutting, so many programs and things, it may be a long shot right now. But I think for me, like when I was younger, it would have helped so much to just have someone that could come in and just be make like just someone to have as like a role model, or just someone to just show me like a I don't know, like someone that could act as sort of like a big sister or a big brother to kind of show me what the possibilities are. I feel like a lot of times with like art, it just isn't taken as seriously, even though it's important. It's kind of like some of the first things cut, as far as like resources. So yeah, I definitely wish there was more support there.
like a form of mentorship, if you want.
Yes. Hmm.
We have been talking a lot about this in the past few months, especially because it seems that especially for the Black community, especially in a country like the United States, there is a very complex situation, a very difficult situation, because uh, for many people it's not easy to get a certain kind of high level education, because it costs money, especially in this country. And
Hmm.
then once you get it, when your family is supporting you in this, then you really want to get a job, you want to give back, to your family. There is all this expectation on you. And
Hmm.
so I was talking with many friends. They were telling me, at the end of the day, you are somehow almost forced to study law or medicine or things that you're going to get, the right job and the right.
Hmm.
And so at the end of the day, you look at the numbers in the US in design. According to the IGA census, just 3% of the designers in the US are Black people. In art, I actually was reading one of your interviews. I think is 1.2% of artists in major American museums are Black artists. I mean, the numbers are just mind blowing, and
Hmm.
and and so this idea of mentoring people in the schools is really powerful, and I think is really really important. We need to find a way to let them know that they can achieve that dream, they can go after the dream, there is a real job in it. And
Hmm.
I think you are a wonderful example of this. Your art is literally screaming creativity, and I think it's very inspiring also for the Black community. Can you tell us more about your philosophy, how you express your ideas, how you use your art as a platform?
Hmm. So I I grew up in a town called Lubbock, Texas, and it's a town like at the time it was probably about like 200,000 people, so kind of a small city. It's how do I say it's very conservative. very, I don't know, very boring. Not a lot, not a lot of cultural activities going on there. But and I didn't get to travel a lot as a child. So for me, my window to the world was magazines, like fashion magazines. Even like my mom used to get a subscription to a magazine called Ebony Magazine, and each month they would have like maybe 2 pages dedicated to fashion. So it would be like, the models, black designers, models on the runways in like New York and Paris. And I was just like, I want to see that someday. And so, I love to draw, and I would get into my own world through my art and magazines. But I was very, very quiet, very introverted. I was just a very weird kid. So it made it so that I was alone a lot, isolated a lot. And so I feel like I didn't really, how do I say? I feel like I eventually wanted to create art for people like me, anyone that's felt othered. I felt growing up, I just felt like I needed to sort of like kind of like hide my light or hide my true self, in this conservative town. And so now through my art, like you said, it screams creativity. Like it's fun, it's I just want to scream through my work, just through the colors and just through the poses of the people and the expression and their fashion. And just interesting to hear from other people how the art makes them feel. And so I guess I'm happy to be able to reach people who may have felt the same way I did.
It's fantastic. Actually, even your outfit, your style, the way you dress, it screams something very, very similar. There is so much energy in the way you dress. How important is fashion? You mentioned actually the fashion magazines were somehow your inspiration from the very
Hmm.
beginning, or your window, your gate to the world outside of Texas and your city.
Yeah.
How much is important fashion in the way you express yourself, in your personal branding?
Yeah, and I know it's different for everyone. But for me, I feel like the way I dress is just it's an extension of my art, and it's sort of an extension of myself. I dress just how I feel, at the moment. I feel like it's just sort of like it's just another way for me to express myself. And then I paint mostly people, and so fashion kind of helps tell their story as well. So, like in one of my recent series, I painted most of my friends and people that I know. So I told them just to wear whatever you want. And like some people showed up done up to the nines with a full on thing, and then others, just got up and just t-shirt, jeans, whatever they had on. So I feel like everyone has their own personal style, and for me, it's just kind of I don't know how you would describe it. It's for me, I
Energy.
like a little sparkle, I guess.
Yes. Look, I in a different way. I like to push a little bit of the boundaries of my style and
Yeah,
as
same.
as well. And it's not easy because sometimes it's beautiful because if you're confident, it differentiates you from others. You become almost memorable and unique. But often, eventually, it also push you apart from others, and eventually you feel less included, and people are looking at you like you're weird, and eventually they even criticize you. So is it the same for you? How do you manage this balance between being unique and yourself and different, but in the meantime you also want to be included, right? You want to be part of the
Yeah,
system.
I think for me, it has a lot to do with the environments that I put myself in or that I find myself in. Like for example, like where I grew up in, like the small city in Lubbock, Texas. Like if I was to walk around dressed like this, I'm sure some people, might, you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know. But
I
but
come from a little village too, outside of Milan,
exactly.
same thing.
But here I live in Austin, Texas, and here it's like we're sort of like a one weird city surrounded by a very conservative community. So I can get away with it here, and that's what I miss about living in New York, because I feel like I feel like walking around there just feels like anything goes, and I loved I love looking at the window displays, and just watching how fashion would change and cycle, and there was just so much further ahead than it is here in Texas. So I think I just like surrounding myself in environments that are more accepting of me, and if it's not accepting, then that's just a part. Then that's just part of like having my own confidence and not to care.
You are saying something super, super interesting. I'm very curious about this. You, I mean, you are in New York. You are inspired by New York. New York, obviously, is such an amazing city
Hmm.
for any artist and designer. But you are producing amazing art out of Texas. And okay, Austin is a unique city too in his own way, but it's different than New York. And we have design teams in so many different parts of the world, and some cities are more inspiring. Some cities are less inspiring. Me personally, I've been living for a few years, for instance, in Minneapolis. That probably is not as inspiring as New York, but still, I found my inspiration in so many different ways. How do you find your inspiration in Austin? And I think it could be inspiring also for all those designers that can't work eventually in New York City or in London, but they can be super creative also anywhere else they are. How do you
Hmm.
find your inspiration?
Yeah, that's the thing that really it's really an issue that a lot of artists face because, of course, like the stereotypical dream is you can become an artist, you move to New York City or something. New York City, that's kind of like the heart of where all the art stuff is in America. But a lot of artists are still able to be successful and have a career without having to live in New York City because it's just so obviously like so expensive there. Like it's hard to get much space for a studio,
Yeah.
hard to work. So you kind of have to get creative and find inspiration in whatever city you are in, and but still travel as much as you are able to. Kind of hard to now as much, but for me, when it comes to inspiration, I think even though I'm someone that I'm not very extroverted when it comes to dealing with people, I still find inspiration in people, and through my art, that's how I connect with people. So like Austin, for example, we we've never been like a huge city. We've grown a lot right now, but when I first moved here, it was more of like a college town. But then for some reason, I guess with South by Southwest and different things, like it just kind of started blowing up with tons of people moving here from other cities, and that's had some negative effect on the city as far as driving the cost of living up. But there's also been some good in that for me, for example, like a lot of these people that are moving here are also creatives, and in the past few years, I've been meeting these people and working with these people, and they become my friends, and I just feel just like this new energy in Austin, this energy of change. So through my work, through some of my work, I wanted to sort of like just capture that energy. So yeah, I think my biggest inspiration is just through the people that I'm around.
And look, you say something that is so important. You want to capture that energy, but to capture that energy, you need to be receptive, right? I mean, I think as an artist, uh, artists have a unique sensitivity. They have like the antennas up, and you can capture the energy that is in the air, and that energy can be at the end of the day anywhere. It could be driven by nature, it could be driven by people, it could be and it depends on your sensitivity, and you are able to capture that extra
Hmm.
sensitivity. I think is really what is so important. Actually, I was reading another interview of yours, and you were talking about the circular relationship between cause and effect, and how
Hmm.
uh, artists are impacted by what they receive and what they take, and then they give back through
Hmm.
through their arts. We come out of, actually we are in the middle of a very particular moment. On one side, the pandemic, COVID, and on the other side, the Black Lives Matter movement, and then all the political situation around this and the civil
Hmm.
unrest. You were already an ambassador of the Black community through your art. That was very inspiring in so many different ways. How did everything that happened in the past year impacted you as a person, and then your art?
Hmm. Yeah, it's 2020 has been a very interesting year all over the place because I had so many plans, and Just before the pandemic happened in the U.S., I was touring my art show. I have an art exhibition called Punk Noir that I started here in Austin, and then I was touring it to other cities. And I was about to show a version of it in Africa, in Nigeria, in Lagos. But then, with the pandemic happening, it was like this just wasn't a good time, obviously. So, and then I also had a show already going on in Dallas, Texas, and so that had to end early. And then the lockdown started happening. So, I mean, fortunately, I'm able to work from home. And at first, I thought I would enjoy just being at home more because, again, I'm shy and quiet. So now there are no events that I have to go to, but even being a quiet introvert, I do need some face to face interaction with people. So definitely wasn't easy. So at first, I really wasn't creating very much. I was more concerned about, like, okay, are my basic needs going to be met? What's going on? And then, but after a while, after I saw, okay, that I'm going to be okay, basic needs are being met. Then I was able to start creating again. A lot of my art, like you see behind me, is big, but I started off just with some drawings, like small drawings, and just kind of easing myself back into it. But then, like, say, fast forward to June, and that's when George Floyd was killed, and then there was this renewed call for I guess for social justice, racial justice, and people on social media were like, support Black businesses, do this and that. And then so in June, like my art business like exploded, from like all these people coming in, like buying my prints, buying paintings, and asking for this and that and more interviews. And so it was just like, oh, okay, well, I appreciate that support, and maybe things can change, maybe things will be changing. And but then, of course, it kind of just started to slow down in July, and then slow down some more in August. So I don't know. I mean, I felt a lot of support, just with people trying to be more supportive of Black businesses and artists. But I just hope that it's something that's not a fad, not a trend. So yeah, I guess time will
That's
tell.
yeah, that's really interesting what you're saying. So you think it may be just a fad, or you think that something changed more radically? I think the big difference between what's going on now and the many, 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 unfortunately, many protests that happened in many years, and I say unfortunately because I wish that with so many protests, the situation would be radically different today, and
Yeah.
it's not yet. But today, the difference is that social media are there. And so there is
Mhm.
an amplification that is incredible. You think this is gonna last, this change? The big difference between the many, many protests in the past is that today we have social media, and social media are amplifying endless times the impact of this protest. So you think this is gonna be permanent? What's your thinking about this?
Um, that's a good question. I feel this time did feel a bit different this year, at least earlier this summer. I already see things slowing down as far as people calling to support black businesses. Like that's already slowed down. And I want to be optimistic, but I have to be realistic too. And I don't think that much is going to change anytime soon. But I hope to see like a major change in my lifetime. But when I think about where I come from, and my parents, like my mom, like when she first started school, like elementary school, like schools were still segregated, and so I'm only one generation away from that. So I don't know. Maybe things can change, and in time, but I don't know. I hope I live to see it.
It's never gonna be fast enough. I mean, for me, it's just unbelievable that we are still in this situation. It's just incomprehensible.
Hmm.
Uh, I think companies have an important role. They have so much reach and so many resources, and I saw many commitments of many companies and organizations and brands. And obviously, in the middle of the civil unrest, there were many. We need to make sure that all these companies are monitored and the efforts are really happening and they keep happening. Uh, I work for PepsiCo. I'm glad to see many of the initiatives. Actually, we are talking today also because you are the protagonist of one of the Life Water collaborations. For the people that don't know, Life Water is one of our mass premium water brands. And every few months we have these collaborations with emerging artists, and Don is going to be in during the Black History Month in February 2021 will be one of the protagonists of this collaboration. So can you tell us a little bit of this relation with Life Water, with the team? How did it play out? How is it going? And what do you think about, in general, beyond Life Water, companies that somehow are trying to engage with artists in general, first of all, and
Hmm.
then also with the Black artists. So both, because even you were talking earlier about the art community that is often neglected. So there is that first dimension, and then the Black artists that are a minority within a community that is already a minority.
Yeah. So that's something when it comes to making a change, like actually doing more than just releasing a statement is really important. Like actually like taking action and doing something is important. So yeah, so I was really like surprised. I was contacted like out of the blue by a curator, for the Life Water project, and so and it's this series is going to be called Black Art Rising, and yeah, like I it was a chance to really actually make an impact and to be seen, and there was support from PepsiCo for that. So it's just really good to actually see like something being done and see this Life Arter project actually elevate Black artists. I think that's really important, and again, just it's so much more important than just only releasing a statement or posting like a black square on social media or something like that. And so I'm not sure what other companies are doing, but I know I've heard, anecdotally, I've heard about, people saying that the company released this template statement, but then, things are still, not, things are still not going very well. They're not really doing much else. So I'm excited to have my work shown with, other artists of color around the country, and just to be a part of it and have people around the world see my art through this project, because the piece that I'm using for this design is supposed to it's supposed to spark joy and just show a Black person just living without worrying about what other people think. So I hope it reaches people that way.
Wonderful. Well, talking about the what you paint and your art, what is the your piece that you love the most, and why, of all your production?
Oh no, that's hard.
I know it's
Oh
like to say you have many babies, you have many sons and daughters.
gosh.
Which one is your favorite? I know how difficult it is. But is there one that somehow yeah, this is
One.
really
Oh,
me, or few?
well, okay, okay. I'll talk about a couple of them, since they're each my babies. I one of my favorites right now is one of my newest pieces, and so I'm really more known for painting, but I just want to do other stuff too, and I love fashion, and I always wanted to make wearable art like this jacket. Like I painted it and put the spikes in, but I wanted to do more with that. So I love to wear different headpieces, just for fun, and change up the look. So I decided to make a set of headpieces. And one of the headpieces is made out of like purple stones, like it's amethyst stones. And it's like I did that because it's my birthmark, and purple is my favorite color. And so
Right.
and this one is not very practical to wear, but I love it, just to look at. And then one of my other favorite pieces, it just so happens to be one that that people are going to see later through the Life Water project. But it's called Roshi, and it's a painting of a friend of mine, and she's like. When I went to so what I do when I paint people is I go and I photograph them so that I can use that image as a reference. And so when I photographed her, she wore a sundress, and we had some different poses that I pulled out of magazines of different models doing different things. And she said, "Well, I'm very flexible, so I can do more advanced poses." So So she like did a back bend where she went all the way back down to the ground. And so I was just snapping photos of that. And so I thought I was going to do a painting of her in the back bend because that looked pretty cool. But then I was really intrigued by the way it looked as she was like halfway there, like not all the way back. And so I decided to paint her in that position. And people who've seen that, some of the people that have seen the painting, they like to take pictures with it because it's huge. It's like 6 feet, 6 feet big, like 6 feet by 6 feet. So they'll take pictures with it, like doing like the same pose. And a lot of people have said that it looks joyful to them, and so I'm glad to see that it gives off like a positive feeling.
I love, we use this word, you use this word multiple times, joy, and then we use the word colors and energy. This is so obvious in your art, something like this. And I think this society needs it so much. There is so much negativity often we're bombarded with. And this is one of the beauty of art in general, or many forms of art. And your art, I think, is the extreme of this in terms of that kind of energy. Uh, your story is inspiring in so many ways. I think, again, we talk about this, the beginning as a lawyer, but in parallel, you just went after your passion. Essentially, you have been innovating in your life. In corporations, we use often the word innovation applied to products and business models and everything we do, but you can innovate in your life as well. There is that approach. You change things, and you do something that is unique. When you innovate, you take risk, and when you take risk from time to time, also, at the end of the day, you may fail, and you need to rebound, and you need to did you what risk did you take during your life? But mostly, you had failures. If you had failures, how did you react to those failures, and how you managed those
Oh, good.
failures?
Like, oh, goodness. It's been as an artist, it's been such a roller coaster. I'm like, okay, where do I start? I mean, as an artist, I've had so many, I don't want to say so many, I've had several stops and restarts. For example, like I told you, that when I found out I got accepted to law school, then I was just rushing to trying to hurry up and become successful as an artist in 1 year, so I don't have to go to law school. And that didn't happen, of course. Looking back, like, yeah, that's kind of silly to try to do so much in such a short a time without knowing very much about it, and try to give myself much time. And the other thing too is, like, I studied other things in school, so I didn't get an art degree. I didn't get like the MFA, and now that I know I want to be an artist, then to even go do that, I'm already so I've already got so much debt from my other degrees that I can't just go back get another one. So at first I was afraid that, okay, I don't have this certain pedigree. So, am I going to be rejected? People going to accept me as an artist? Am I a real artist? And I have, I do get, as an artist, you apply for a lot of things, and I do get rejected. And that is something that dealing with rejection is definitely a work in progress, because, and as an artist, you really do have to, well, a lot of artists have to get used to like constant rejection, and it can be hard. Like, when I've gotten rejected before, and so many times I decided, okay, this is just too much. I love being an artist, but the hustle is too much for me, so I'm just gonna just stop and just focus on journalism for a few years. And I don't know if I'll go back to it, but then I focused on journalism only, and I just wasn't truly happy. And so, I just started getting back into art. And this is, I'm talking about, this happened several years ago. This is my most recent restart. And it's been about 4 years, and I'm continuing to go. But it's definitely a thing, like, when you get rejected, you get knocked down, you have to get back up. And because my background isn't traditional for an artist, I have to really innovate in literally creating my own path for myself. And one of the ways that I do that is really through social media. Even going back to the MySpace days, like, I was, I was always posting, and I met other artists that way. I met collectors, and now, fast forward to now, like, I post a lot on Instagram and show my process, and it's sort of like a way to create a little bit of a community there virtually. And so yeah, that's just really important for me. Just social media and just putting myself out there the best I can and being creative and like you said, just innovate and just carve that path.
And have a point of view. I Many people are somehow afraid of using social media in that way, and I think if you just learn how to be comfortable in that, and you express your point of view that is unique, your perspective on the world that is unique, people will embrace it, and it's such a powerful platform. I am really glad you mentioned it, because I really believe in it, and many people I think are not leveraging it as they could, to really.
Yeah, I think that, and even other artists I've talked to, they say, "Oh, you're good at social media. I hate doing it. How do I do it?" And I mean, really, for people that, and again, like not everyone, every artist doesn't, have to do it, or they don't need, they may not need to do it. I feel like I need to do it, but and when for artists that want to do it and aren't sure how, just start out small. And when it comes to social media, I mean, you really don't have to share everything in your whole life or anything like that. Just show little bits and pieces just with your phone. Like just take a little picture of a corner of something that you're working on here and there. And it's really really simple. Just like just upload the image or just something small. And the biggest thing is just is being persistent with it, and being consistent, I guess. Being
Consistent,
consistent
yeah,
with
yeah.
it, and just keep doing it. At least people that are starting out, like at least maybe a couple posts a week or something like that. But for me, it's been a good way to just connect with people that love art, and there's people that maybe they don't collect art, but they just like the way art looks and like following the process. And then there are serious collectors and even like gallery curators that find my art like on social media, like Instagram and Twitter. And it's just been really good because a lot of times when the painting is finished, I've already been showing people kind of the process and what I'm going through, and so people feel like even more of a connection to that work because they were with me as I was creating it. So that's important for me.
Full engagement, and then transparency, I guess. You're really
Hmm.
putting yourself out there, but in a controlled way with filters.
Exactly.
And so what is the project that you would love to do, that you dream to do but you didn't do yet?
I would say and of course, hopefully there'll be a vaccine for the coronavirus soon because I love to paint people, and I could see myself, and I'm really sad I didn't get to go to Nigeria this summer because I wanted to do this. Like I want to go to different corners of the world and find people to do their portraits. Take their picture and then make a portrait. I'm very interested in like in punk culture. So, for example, like if I go to Lagos, like I would want to find like Nigerian punks and hang out, take their pictures and do their portraits. I want to go to Japan and take pictures and do portraits of people there. So that would be my dream, is to be able to travel the world and do art in different places and connect with different people through my art. But in person. So hopefully that can happen. Eventually.
Well, Don, thanks for your insights, for your inspiration, for the energy and the colors you put out there in the world with your art, and for being with us today to share all of this. It's been really inspirational and insightful.
Well, good. Yes, it was great chatting with you.
Thank you.